Random. Oh! Texans.
Hello out there, hope all is well with you. It's raining in Los Angeles, which I love and is absolutely rare. So this is kicking off the first area of guitar rehab with physical therapy. Essentially what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through different apparati and all stuff that I've used. Some of these things are pretty low key and they're just there to strengthen or help dexterity. Other things are more intense and I'll point them out as we go. And then there are a few things that I'll point to, but I will make it very clear that those things were prescribed as such by physical therapists that I'd gone to. I'll give a rundown on everything as we go. But I can't emphasize enough that if you're in a situation where you are rehabilitating from some kind of injury or surgery or whatever it may be, you do need to get professional guidance. I'm just here today with these just so you know the options that are out there. As I've said before, I had no idea what my options were out there in general, let alone with what I'm going to show you today. As we go along, I'll let you know intensity of decision making, whether it be like, oh, that'll help my dexterity, or maybe I should talk to my physical therapist or someone about using this. Hopefully it goes without saying that there's no product endorsement here. I'm just pointing to items that most of which I own that were recommended to me and that I used. Some work better than others. It's different for everyone. Most of the images you'll see today I've just pulled from Amazon. That's just for ease of pointing to these different products and what they look like. Yes, I did buy a good amount of it off Amazon. Sometimes you have to go to a proper medical equipment place for other things. But once again, that's when you're in real medical guidance territory. What I will say though, and this is universal, one general rule is if it doesn't feel right, if it hurts, stop. Especially with this stuff. This is not about lifting dumbbells and, physically trying to build mass or anything. Last thing I'll say just before jumping in is yoga is your best friend by all accounts. I only started doing yoga a few years ago and I was shocked at how much it helped a whole bunch of different things, even just waking up in the morning. One channel I will give a shout out to is Yoga with Adrienne. She's great. She's got a whole cross section of stuff. And even for musicians. Okay, let's get into it. First item. This is actually just a simple roller. It can be used for a whole lot of different exercises, but what I was recommended to do with it was to lay across it where my back was aligning with the length of the roller. I'll put up a photo. You have to be very careful getting on and off the thing for many reasons, but I highly recommend looking up some videos on that very simple exercise. Just opens up the spine in a way that corrects how you probably walk every day. So I'll put up a couple of links on where to look how to use this. Next on the list, so keeping it pretty low key at this point, these are compression gloves. I think they're great to use after a practice session, just to kind of bring all your muscles back together and let them cool down. I think especially if you play a lot of intense guitar, a lot of classical guitar, left hand in particular. It's also a reminder not to do anything too crazy with your hands afterwards. I'd recommend these to anyone, for people learning an instrument, for those coming back to it, and for those like myself where my hands needed an extra bit of love. I had a different version of what these are. This is a hot cold pack thing. Before you practice, especially if you live in colder climates, it is great to warm your hands up. Sometimes even if I've had nothing on me like this, I've just run my hands under pretty reasonably warm, on the path to being hot water, and just stretching them out. When you do stretches, anything that feels like it just makes sense, just gentle pushing your fingers back, and anything that's gentle, it's just something that just feels like a good stretch, that's usually a good thing. Once again, if it hurts, don't do it. And never crack your knuckles, seriously. This is an interesting one. This is an ice therapy massage roller ball. Another great one after a practice session, or just if your hands are feeling a little bit inflamed. You put it in the freezer, the ball kind of frosts over, and you can just take your hand and run it over the ball. Not only is it ice cold, but you're also rolling through it. And hey, look at this, I have a prop. Just kind of kneading your hands, just pushing on it with a little bit of strength. It can be a great little cold massage after you play, or if your hands are feeling intense and a bit inflamed. Now we're getting into braces. This is a back brace used by many people for many different reasons. My dad has used one for a long time for motorbike riding. I also use a back brace when I am doing a lot of mountain bike riding myself, but this is great for your posture. Everything's connected when it comes to your body, and it usually starts from the neck down, which we'll get to later. The straighter you are, the better posture you've got. Everything benefits from it. So for us guitarists that tend to have really bad posture, there's nothing ergonomic about the way we attack instruments most of the time. We're just pursuing the best sound we possibly can and don't realize how we're contorting ourselves. So being more aware of posture and the ergonomics of playing, it's extremely possible to become a great musician ergonomically. Otherwise, you've got to backtrack like a lot of us have. I fall in between. When I was learning and going through university, some better practice routines were coming in, modern, more well thought out. We'll talk about that, but be aware of your posture. There we go, superhero time. This is called a compression shirt. It helps you keep your shoulders back so we're not just like slouching over like that. Keeps you sitting and standing straight. Once again, helping your posture, and just opens everything up here. And it can look like you've worked out because you're standing up straighter. So that's obviously the main reason why we're doing that. These are wrist braces, often used for carpal tunnel. And these just keep your wrist and hand in a straight position. It's better to be like that than like bent over like this or too much like that. It's always good not to kind of contort your hands too much, and especially after a big practice session. They were worried I had carpal tunnel. It ended up that most of my problems were coming down from my neck. So I did have these for a little while. It's not something I would go to bed with. I tried once. You'll wake up all like stiff in your wrist with your hands, not in a good way. But this is something that you should find out in your own context. I've always been told with any kind of braces like this that you don't want to wear it all the time. It's good to get you into a better habit of how you hold your body. Also, if you look on here with the shoulder brace, you don't want to have your arm like just getting used to constantly being taken care of. When I had my rotator cuff surgery where they reattached the bicep, I was wearing like a sling. The surgeon said to me, I don't want you to wear it all the time because we do have to strengthen your arm. You'll get too used to just laying there in a sling. So that's what I was recommended to do in my particular circumstance. This is a more intense version of the hand and wrist brace. You can see it's a lot more firm than the one we were looking at before. These are like finger splints. Also something I was recommended to use for my fingers and just keeping them straight. A lot of these devices, they more or less, you can see that they just kind of open your body up so there's no harsh angles in how you're holding your body at all. This is another form of back brace. Once again, pulling your shoulders back. It's a step up from the compression shirt because it's really making sure that you have a straight posture. And these things are meant to kind of get you into a good habit. A lot of this stuff, you can actually feel more blood flow when you do, which leads me to this contraption. This particular contraption is extremely expensive, but I have a type of guitar strap that is like a brace that attaches to your guitar. So instead of it just being over your left shoulder if you're right-handed or right shoulder if you're left-handed, it's over both shoulders. It distributes the weight. And I think in particular, it's good for when you're practicing. Because once again, you're going to want to hunch over your guitar, and that's not good for your posture. My one wasn't that expensive. I think it might have even been an Ernie Ball one. I'll have to check. If anyone has a type of these that they really love and recommend, please put it down in the comments. Okay, now we're getting into medical doctor advice prescription territory. I'm just letting you know this stuff exists, and if you want to bring it up with whoever's looking after you and your recovery or your condition, let them tell you if it's a good choice for you. This is like a neck brace. You might have seen the old ones. They're usually white and they're like a foam collar that go around your neck. You usually see it in TV shows when someone's either done themselves in or someone's pretending that they got hurt and they're, going to the local attorney or lawyer to sort them out for the car crash they didn't have. Anyway, as it looks, it keeps your neck straight. It was one of the things that I was doing before my neck surgery. One of the line of non-invasive things I had done, including physical therapy. This is a different one than the foam collar. You pump it up like a blood pressure pump with the black kind of squishy ball thing on the end, and pumps it up to cater to the length of your neck. So instead of just putting a foam one on that's of a certain size that might not be quite right and sometimes can do you damage because of that, this will go to the right height for your particular neck, but you got to be careful because you don't push it too far. And this is another reason why this is where you do the deeper research for you. As my good friend and colleague said to me, Satnam Ramgotra, who got it from Heitor Pereira, if you can avoid the inner parts of your body being exposed to light, that's always the preferred path. This was part of my path before it became incredibly necessary for me to have my neck surgery. This was the last part of my lead up to the neck surgery I had. You can't buy this on Amazon, as you can see. This is from a proper medical device shop. The idea with this is it's the kind of traction one step before having it in hospital, where that bag in the background is filled with water and the sling is put under your chin, and you stand there for 10 or 15 minutes or even sit on a chair while that water, which is filled up to a certain level, is stretching your neck in that way. So as you can imagine, this is not something you do unless a professional tells you you should do it. Now we're in the territory, other end of the spectrum, where this is about strengthening, whether you are just trying to strengthen your hands or you are rehabilitating. Low impact stuff, kind of almost toy-like, really. These are just squish balls that you can squish as hard as you want, as hard as it feels right. They are all of varying density, so some are lighter, some take more strength. This is just an easy thing. You can sit there, watch TV, and just kind of just squeeze and squeeze one of those balls. I'm really trying, I'm not joking, I'm really trying to be careful of my verbiage because some of this stuff doesn't sound right. Oy vey. Okay, here we go. Next one. This is for finger strength. You can push your fingers into the putty. You can knead it. And once again, there's different levels of intensity. That's why there's multiple ones there. But that's another kind of low impact strengthening exercise you can do. What you see this guy doing is pretty much what you do with this. Things like this are good because, you only twist it as much as is comfortable. There's different exercises you can do, even with that one bit of teal aqua looking rubber. So that's kind of pretty self-explanatory. And once again, you can see that there's all different levels of intensity in terms of the resistance that you're dealing with. A lot of these devices have different resistant levels that you can purchase, and many of them actually come with a variety of different resistant levels unto themselves. This silicone finger stretch gadget thing is good for doing exactly that. And also, you can use it in conjunction with an exercise ball for your hand. And that's funny because then you get the guitar versions of these and, you add another 50%, maybe 100% in terms of cost, especially if there's a brand name on it. Now, these pegs is the first half of something that I think is kind of one of the more fun exercises. Once again, color-coded to show you it's got different levels of intensity. I kind of call these the resistive pinch clothesline pegs because that's kind of what they look like, although they're much bigger than that because they can fit in your hand. The other part that makes this fun is this. It's a puzzle where you're meant to jump the pegs. It starts with one peg missing, and then you're meant to jump the pegs until you get the least amount of pegs possible. It even gives you a rating system, like if you get it down to one, you're like a genius. So when you're doing this peg game, you take these guys and you use them to manipulate, move the pegs around, jump pegs, pull them out. It's not always that easy, and you got to get the right size, the pinches versus the heads of the pegs of the game. But it's fun because you get competitive with yourself and you kind of forget that you're actually exercising your hand. These are rubber bands, and as you can see by now, most of these are color-coded, all these different devices to show you that there's different intensities. These can be used in very simple ways, just stretching, strengthening. You can even do bicep curls with these things. So that's obviously really good for bicep strength and different back exercises and all that kind of resistance training. This is the more tactile version in more of a skipping rope type design. They're really good because you can really grip onto them. It's not just a piece of rubber band. And now we're into an area where I'm sure many of you are familiar with. These hand finger grip devices. First time I ever saw one was, I think it was Fender that were making them. And my physical therapist told me that, because I said to her, we've got this for guitar stuff. And she said, well, that's where physical therapy got the idea to start using this in a wider context. So there's different intensities. This one I have, it's on the harder side. I think it might be adjustable. You can also use it both ways. You can have your fingers on the top where those little digits are, or you can have your fingers on the black part and it strengthens your palm in a more kind of tactile way. This one is an adjustable one. I do have that as well, so it's great. You can go between the different adjustments. This one's much more intense. You have to use a lot more strength on it, but it is adjustable, the one I have anyway. These you can get in a set of 3, easy, medium, hard, as you would expect. I find a lot of the time doing more repetitions of a lighter tension can be more beneficial than just trying to crack out 10 of the harder ones. The light version, I'll use the lightest version that I have before performing, just to kind of like get my fingers moving, just kind of tapping through them, because I don't want to wear my hands out. I just want to get them moving. Warming up's always really important. It is for voice, it is for every instrument, and you will likely have a better performance if you can get your fingers moving around beforehand. This is basically a rubber band twisted around itself when you're playing scales or different chord patterns or arpeggios. It's adding resistance there, just strengthening your fingers as you do it. This is a newer contraption that I came across. And it's more a question mark to the community because I haven't tried this weird tambourine looking thing. There's a lot of different devices out there and there's becoming more and more of them. Some are great, some aren't so great. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of different apparati. This looks interesting to me. Visually looks a bit overcomplicated, but it could also be amazing. See, the rubber band we were just looking at might be all you need. As opposed to the twisted rubber band, this seems to just be keeping your fingers apart as opposed to you having to stretch it. I might even get that and report back on it. Okay, that's just a cross-section of things, physical therapy-wise. I'll go through a certain number of those in future videos, show you how I've used them. Mainly the musician-orientated ones. I think there's much better models out there to show you how to use the rubber bands and various other equipment. It's important you do it with the right posture. So looking at those videos from a trusted source and seeing people in the videos do it, I would really recommend. But I can't say enough, especially if you're rehabilitating from an injury or surgery or whatever, being on the right path and having a physical therapist guide you. Maybe you don't have the luxury to have that, unfortunately, but there are a lot of great .org resources on the net, and over time I'll try and find some to put in the links. Anyway, love to hear what you think of these various devices. If you have any further advice on how to use them or other devices that are out there. Anyway, until next time, like, subscribe. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you on the next one.